You will not have a united India if you have not a good all-India service which has the independence to speak out of its mind. Statement made by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel on 10th October 1949 in the Constituent Assembly. This perhaps is the vision and ethos of this premier national IAS Academy. And since its inception, it has been moving on from strength to produce the responsive civil servant who have the capacity to speak out of their mind and hence contribute in a big way in nation building. That has to be changed. That bureaucracy, the larger chunk of it is corrupt. But you guys, the bureaucrats in making, you're well aware of that. So your job and the list of challenges is cut out for you.
Yes, exactly. And also, just coming back to that perception angle, a large reason many of the good works of the bureaucrats doesn't come into the media is because we're supposed to be politically neutral.
Okay.
And also when we hear of corruption and scam, those are the exceptional cases which come out. Because they're like good people in society, they're always good bureaucrats, bad bureaucrats.
It was pretty clear the training in the academy has given all of them a sense of direction, a purpose and definitely a broad-based agenda as and when they assume the charge as civil servants. And the purpose is to bridge the gap between Aam Aadmi and government, and the way to do is building capacity through education.
My take is that education is the most important thing. With education their capacity will be built. And then they won't be requiring that help from the government. They will be self-sufficient. That is more important. Like first we give them help, but we try to give them help so that they don't need any help later on. So that's what the government should aim at.
After capturing the extensive training sessions on camera, we were left with questions.
Who is a good bureaucrat?
I would say everybody who follows his duties and is rightly spirited to serve the nation as a good bureaucrat, and the attempt of the academy is to make every one of us that. But while in the way, if somebody runs amok, it's also the responsibility to get him back without criticizing him to the, to such an extent that we lose, I think the attempt is to get him back in the streamline rather than just ostracizing him to the death.
1:30 to 2:30 is the lunch break, and as I'm sipping my hot cup of tea, this officers' mess will be stormed by officer trainees for the lunch breaks. But I have been told that in the academy there is much more to these lunch breaks than the sumptuous and healthy meal served. Let's talk to some of these OTs and find out what is so special about these lunch breaks in the academy.
After at least 4 hours of rigorous group discussions and brainstorming sessions, lunch break is the next best thing the OTs are waiting for. And much to our surprise, there was more to these lunch breaks than the appetizing meal on menu. For the OTs, the meals are just a way to get together, time to bond, and for some, dining hall is no less than a family as well, and for some, no less than a reminder of their college days.
Meals are just a way of getting together, these tables are nothing but like our mini homes. We just expect when the lunch break will be so that we can get along with the other section people, and especially with the other people who have left. Since the foundation is over, we really miss our police service friends and foreign service friends who have left us, and forest service people. Otherwise this entire place used to be fully packed and we used to discuss about everything like college days. So this is not just the meals, but the bonding that we had during the lunches. That is like the great thing about mess hall, at least.
And we caught up with this probationer, and this is his first day in the academy.
Half a day is over. Classes are as usual like our college days. Not much different, but the environment is somewhat good. The climate and the environment of the academy, and of almost people from different states. So this is somewhat interesting.
And then there are others who, despite of pre-lunch heavy group discussions, are already charged up and looking forward to the post-lunch discourses as well. Although they are candid enough to admit that post-lunch sessions are a bit of a challenge.
So what's your next session lined up after this heavy lunch? Are you looking forward to the next session?
To be candid enough, I would say those are sleeping hours, afternoon nap. So most of our guest lecturers who would come, the lecturers would know that this is the nap time, so they are prepared, and they would just put some kind of anecdotes from some interesting things so that we are awake.
It's the most awaited because we most of our friends are in different sections, so we get to meet them. That is the best part of lunch. We get to meet them, we get some gossips and all, and we interact heavily in lunch. So
because breakfast we have very heavy breakfast, so I don't think for the food part is not the highlight of lunch. It's the interaction part which is the highlight.
Amidst our shoot in the academy mess, we also met Kaka, who is more than a family to probationers. The most special thing that stands out about Kaka is that he has served the academy for more than 4 decades, and this happens to be his first home.
काका, आपको इस एकेडमी में 40 साल से भी ज्यादा हो रहे हुए काम करते हुए, एक छोटे से कैंटीन से इतना बड़ा मेस इतने साल।
मैं 40 साल से करीब गए, मैं 72 में यहाँ लग चुका था। तो कुछ दिन तक तो मैं दिल्ली में किया, उसके बाद ज्यादा नहीं किया, करीब 6 साल से मैंने किया होगा, बाकी परमानेंट जॉब मिल गई।
आपने अफसरों की इतनी पीढ़ियां आते देखी, जाते देखी, कैसा लगता है आपको? ठीक
लगता है। काफी लोग जो थे, जो मेरे सामने के जो अफसर थे, जिनको ट्रेनिंग करा था, वो काफी लोग नीचे फिर बाद में
खाना खिलाते थे,
खिलाए गए, वो डायरेक्टर वगैरह बनकर अपनी पोस्टों में और भी ज्यादा मतलब बड़े
सब आपको प्यार से काका बुलाते हैं।
अभी भी मतलब उसी चार्ज से चलते हैं उनसे,
चाहे कितना भी बड़ा अफसर।
मतलब काका तो नहीं बोलते लोग, लेकिन अफसर ही करके जैसे मतलब बोलते हैं वैसे ही वो बोलते हैं, बड़े प्यार से हर आदमी अच्छे तरीके से बोलते हैं। अभी भी जो अपने अफसर आ रखे हैं यहाँ पर डायरेक्टर में परमवीर सिंह साहब, अभी बड़े जब भी मिलते हैं एकदम मतलब करीब में लगा के बात करते हैं।
पुराने अफसरों में और नए अफसरों में कुछ फर्क लगा आपको, जो आजकल की नई पीढ़ी के बच्चे आ रहे हैं या पुराने अफसर?
इतना तो थोड़ा सा आइडिया है कि आप लोगों को भी कि पुराने में नए में तो अंतर होता है। जब हमने खुद इतने में नए में पुराने में, जो हमारे से छोटे बच्चे हैं वो तरीके से बातें करते हैं, और जो और भी बराबरी के वो हमारे हिसाब से अच्छी बातें करते हैं, थोड़ा करते अच्छे है, वैसे भी बच्चे भी अच्छी बात करते हैं, लेकिन उनके कुछ बोलचाल अलग से है, हमारे कुछ बात।
Second day in the academy, and it's time to move on to training beyond classrooms. And this meant village visits. The highlight of the foundation course is the village visit. We decided to accompany the OTs to one such village visit. Well, it's 8 a.m. in the morning and it's pretty chilly here out in Mussoorie, and the academy is almost some 4 to 5 kilometers away from this spot. And the team of Young India accompanied some of the OT groups or the officer trainee groups to their village visits, and one such village is this, which is called Vaikuli Bhatta. The village visits form an integral part of their IAS course curriculum, and the OT define these village visits as the defining moments of their training. Why? Because herein they get to not only interact with the villagers, they get to meet the real people, confront real issues, in fact see life from close quarters. For the officer trainees, academy has been the experience of the lifetime, where the officer trainees are exposed to many layers of public life. OTs go to villages to know more about the rural environment by carrying out research on different aspects of village life.
I had already a background of village, but going to the Uttarakhand village, it gave me a lot of experience, and while we talking directly with the peoples, like lot of inputs they had given us regarding the landslides, etc., routes, connectivity. So these things are.
I am from a completely non-rural background, and it was eye-opening, and we saw that there was no electricity, no telephone connections, and I really wondered how did these people live, and they were so satisfied with their lives. Of course, they had their own problems. There were problems of non-issuance of BPL card to the families who were really BPL, and there was non-payment of some kind of when disasters struck their huts or whatever, it has broken their homes. So the compensation was not paid on time. So there were a lot of problems. But these people, we really got to know that how these people lived. We take certain things so much for granted, and they were not there.
And that perhaps has given you more work, as in the agenda when and on you will get on field, start working. Now you know what you have to do.
Yeah, it was
the community service, on the lines of community service. Yeah,
exactly. It was a very good experience because it gave us hands-on experience on what the problems of the people are, and we've talked to various village functionaries like the Pradhan, the Panchayat, the ladies in the village. So definitely, India is a diverse country which has many problems, but villages have their own set of problems. So when we go to the field, it'll be much easier for us to then, implement these programs. And the one takeaway I think from the village visit was that it's so important to go and talk to people,
reach out
to the people, because once you do that, then half the problem is solved. Once you talk to them, and we found out that the district administration they don't really reach out. So if we can make that kind of change and reach out to the people,
The thrust of this National Academy of Civil Services is the training imparted. But what is also significant to these training is the faculty that imparts this training. The faculty consists of most qualified professionals from various walks of life.
I think guest lecturers are usually specialists. You must have seen for the couple of days that you have been here. They do bring in a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and I myself feel, the kind of intellectual inputs that the guest lecturers have been given to us, they are something which will really make a lifelong influence.
One is obviously the theoretical knowledge which we are getting from here, but more important is as you were saying, time management and awareness of various ethical, moral issues. Like we had a session today about it, and till we come here, even though we know there are a lot of issues involved, we don't really think about it and the dimensions and depth. And then the fact that they expose you to so many things in such a short period of time, you learn so many new things about yourself, things you didn't know you were capable of. But like a lot of people, I think because of various activities, have taken up new hobbies, and all these will be useful.
What goes behind these four walls of the conference room goes in a long way in shaping the psyche of the next generation of bureaucrats. Beyond books and academics, that's what they are compelled to think beyond obvious. Their role in Samaj, the society, the nation and the constitution, and amidst all this, the bigger role assumed by the civil services.
What will happen to the Lok Sabha if this constitution collapses? It won't be relevant at all. It won't exist at all. Now I want to tell you that the judiciary, judges give me the same answer that you give. Sir, if the constitution collapses, we have to find a way to continue to administer the courts and the government as best as we can, guided by our individual constitution. But when I ask them, what will happen to the Lok Sabha? They give me the same answer, sir, it will cease to exist. Now I want an answer from the judges and civil servants of this country that if this constitution collapses, you will perish with this constitution. Like the Lok Sabha, you will not exist after that. Unless you understand that your lifeblood comes from this constitution, like the Lok Sabha. And without this constitution, you will not exist. You cannot function. This constitution cannot be saved.
There are sometimes costs to pay. It is not, if there was no cost to pay, why are we discussing? Then everybody might as well, in the off chance that there is God and in the off chance that there is heaven, you might as well be ethical if there is no cost to pay. But it's because there is a cost to pay that it becomes an important debate. And you also then have to, one thing is cost, negative. You want to be ethical, but people are pressurizing you to be unethical. You are being threatened, your chief minister is unhappy with you, your chief secretary, that's one part of it. But you are also foregoing benefits.
And for them, these were the core lessons in morality, their guiding force for the lifetime. The probationers are also exposed to adverse conditions.
One of the prime objectives of our learning while in the academy is Esprit de Corps, and that is best fostered by trekking. While we go for trekking, we just go as strangers, but when we come back, we are like super bonded family, and we come back as one. And that, as she told, that we still miss our friends who have left for their respective academies. So trekking, not just in terms of bonding, there are other things which we learn. It's just not bonding with our friends; it's also bonding with our larger society, which generally remains untouched.
Various treks are organized to test their physical fitness and mental toughness.
When we together went, initially we had some inhibitions, because it was in the first month of our foundation course itself. But when we reached, slowly we started realizing their nature and really understanding each other. So, the group dynamics was really very good.